Hello, guys. Welcome to today's workshop. I think the whole idea of the business side of things is not very clear with us. So,
At a studio for about 2.5 years, where I basically learned recording and a little bit more production and the technical aspects of, studio life, you could say. After which I quit and I started freelancing as a music producer. And mostly I was doing some ads here and there and producing for independent artists as well. But until maybe like early last year or a little before that, in fact, I did start feeling like this is not still sustainable enough for me as a career because of multiple problems, whatever it is, like ad work still comes one off, and sometimes there's work, sometimes there isn't. And independent work doesn't really pay the bills also, and you don't even feel like charging independent artists that much because they're not going to make that much money off of it. So that's when I kind of decided to get together with Sandesh, my partner, and figure out what can we do in this music business to really, streamline our process and have some sort of a set business model in place, which will, yield something in the long run and give us somewhere to get to. Which is when we started thinking more like entrepreneurs. There is a shift that happens in the thought process, and that's when we started Heard. We understood the music business and everything that goes around with it, and we started Heard Music as a music publisher and a music supervision company. So what I'm trying to say is, if you are in this creative industry, be it in music or film, you really need to know a couple of things. Namely, I think there are three things that you need to know if you need to either freelance or form a business over here in music or film. And I think it applies, in fact, cross industries everywhere, across sectors. First is the law of the land. And I will be speaking with respect to music and a little bit with respect to film also, because as a music publisher and a music supervision company, we are operating in between these two essentially. Mostly we are in the music side, of course, that's where our work is. But our clients essentially and our potential customer base are filmmakers, production houses, people making short films, also web series, ads, and stuff like that. So things that I needed to know in law of the land is firstly the Copyright Act. Second thing is prevailing practices in the market. What's happening around you? What currently? I mean, sure, you do need to know some history as well, as so that you make sense of why we are here, wherever we are, and whatever practices are being adopted in your industry. And thirdly is possibilities for the future. These are three things that you need to kind of factor in and put it down in a way such that you internalize it. And that automatically gives you a lot of insight as to where this industry is, what it's doing, and how you can fit into this, and what kind of problems you can solve. So let's take it one at a time. Let's talk about law of the land. Yeah, the law surrounding copyright in our country is drafted to safeguard creators. Okay, especially after the latest amendment, but we'll get to that a little bit later. The copyright law in our country is the Copyright Act of 1957. And yeah, it protects original literary, musical, and artistic work from unauthorized uses. It also does this for like dramatic and artistic work and like cinematograph films as well. Like anything, basically, the concept is more important to understand than the jargon, I would say. But it exists to protect any kind of creative original work from being used in an unauthorized manner, or to, like, I'm sure, like the initial thought when anyone hears copyright is, oh, I can't copy that, or this cannot be copied. Sure, you're right. It does prevent copying or like your work from being stolen. But more importantly, I feel it exists to give you all the possible ways to make money from your creative work. It promotes revenue generation. And how does it do that? I think one of the essential things of copyright that anyone needs to understand is it's not one right. It's not like one thing that you have to go and register for. By the way, copyright is the only thing that you don't have to register for. Like trademark and patent, you don't need to register for. But copyright, it's not compulsory. The very fact that you have created something means that you are the owner of copyright around it. And like I said, it's not one thing. It's not like this one thing that you own. It's a bundle of rights, essentially. So there are multiple things that you can do with this one creation that you've made. Be it music, a song, a poem, or a screenplay, a story, or even a film. Say now let's take one example where I've written a song. By default, the copyrights that I have now surrounding it, the moment I've put pen to paper or I've whatever gone into my DAW and put down a song structure, the moment I've done this, I have a bunch of rights surrounding this. And what are these rights generally? I can play it to the public. I can release it by distributing it. I can adapt it or change it. I can get someone else to record it. I can reproduce it. I can use it in a film that I'm making, or I can put it in someone else's film with their consent and if they need it, of course. But these are things that I'm entitled to do with the song for myself. But at the same time, I can also authorize or license someone else to do these things for me or for their benefit, for a mutual benefit also. And the fact is, I can expect to make money from each of these things. So this, I feel, is crucial to understand and internalize. One song or any such creation has so many potential avenues of making money, which is why I feel it should be considered as an asset and not a product. Think of it like owning property, right? If you have some kind of property, say a house, it's not necessary that you just have to either buy or sell it. There's so much you can do with it, right? You can lease it out, you can rent it out, you can make it an Airbnb, you can whatever you want, you can do with it. Basically, there are multiple avenues such where you can continue to make revenue off of it. It doesn't have to be just one transaction, one sale, and that's it. Still, why do we mostly hear talk about selling a song to a film producer or a record label? See, in these cases, we are mostly talking about transferring all of these rights, the bundle of rights that I just said. All of those rights are transferred from the creator of the song to the buyer of the song, whoever it is, say a record label in this case. So so this label can now has paid you one sum of money, and they can basically do everything that they want with this song and make unlimited amount of money from it without having to pay you ever again. That's what essentially selling a song would mean, right? They can make money through all these avenues, by distributing it, by licensing it, by putting it in a film, by promoting it, whatever it is. They can make all the money and they don't have to pay you. But now what our law suggests, this is where the Copyright Amendment of 2012 comes in. It really changes the game. So in the above scenario, the label never has to pay you again, like I said, where if they make millions of dollars or rupees also, they don't have to pay you. But think about what channels they're making money from. Say by playing the song on streaming services like Spotify or Apple Music, or playing the song in a live concert, or playing the song in a film, or on a web show which is on an OTT platform. So there's multiple avenues. But basically, how they're making money is by communicating the song to the public in whatever way, right? So the law now says that this communication of the song to the public, which is known as public performance. Okay, don't mistake performance for just meaning live, like a gig. Public performance is anywhere where a song is being played, even its recorded version, or if it's being sung or played, whatever it is. If it's being communicated to the public, it's called public performance of the work. So this amendment suggests that authors or composers of music can collect royalties from public performance of their work. So say there's a radio platform or an OTT platform like we discussed, where the label is now playing the song. You are the author of this song or the composer of this song. Let's say you created the song and nothing can change that. That's what the bill says. It says that the authorship itself is not transferable. If you have composed it or you have created it, then you are and will be the author, and you have the right to collect royalties from these broadcasters wherever this music is being played. So these payments are called basically authors or writers or composers royalties. But how will this whatever radio broadcaster or OTT platform, how will they go and pay each and every like single composer or author of work, right? It's not possible for them to pay each one separately, which is why we have something called a copyright society. This enables something called one window collection, which is if anyone is communicating music to the public, say that's what, be it even like a restaurant, for example, where music is playing, or like a showroom or an event, anywhere where music is being played in the public, that entity has to get a license from this one window, this copyright society. So there is a copyright society that does this for each kind of creator, essentially. So IPRS does this for composers and authors of lyrics, composers of music and authors of lyrics. And PPL does this for whoever owns the song, basically the record label in this case. And ISRA does this for singers, and SRAI does this for screenwriters. Actually, SRAI is not registered yet with the Copyright Act, but they are lobbying to get it done this year itself. So, which is why, again, I would reinforce that it's very important to know these things which are pertinent to your industry, because things are, like I said, changing in real time. So let's look at how a copyright society works. So I'm going to hand over to Sandesh, my partner now. Sandesh, please.
Hey, thank you, Rahul. So yeah, hi guys. So basically, my name is Sandesh, and let me just give you a brief background about myself. So I did my sound engineering in 2011, and from then I have freelanced with a lot of independent artists, and as well as few bands and all around. So I was more into live shows and live engineering, and which is where I, like, there is not a stable income kind of thing from the live industry, but yeah, it is very difficult to survive. So which is where I guess I met Rahul at a recording studio where I was working in 2015. I started working there. So yeah, so basically I kind of have a knowledge of both live and studio. So, and which is where we started, like also branching out into this music business, uh, so that there are more avenues. And upon our research, we stumbled that, like, there are not a lot of people who are aware of these things. So, like, creating this awareness first was our main thing, and maybe, like, then the revenue generation might come up for us. So yeah, to just start with the basics, we have to register ourselves and our songs to these copyright society to gain any monetary benefit. Okay, so by assigning societies your tracks, the performance is also the performance rights are also given to for these tracks. And here, as Rahul said, the performance is not just limited to the live performance, but wherever it is being played, or even Spotify for that matter is also called a performance. So here, how it works is the organizer has to take a blanket license, which is called from IPRS. So here the blanket license is basically whatever songs are registered under IPRS, they create this one license called as a blanket license, which is then, like, you don't have to, like, even from IPRS, you don't have to purchase one single license for each song. You can just buy a blanket license according to where you are using the song, and they have easily bifurcated it according to where you are playing, be it in mall, be it in restaurant, be it in amusement park. So each and every scenario has different rates, tariffs for on their website. You can just go through that. So yeah, so you get this blanket license to play the music anywhere, and then when in say live performance, when the organizer books an artist, legally speaking, what the artist has to do is the artist has to submit the set list, be it original music, be it cover music, to the organizer, who will then submit that license, that set list to the copyright society. So, which is where the artist gets the royalties from your copyright society, and as well as the artist gets his performance fees. So these are two things which is like giving you a monetary benefit as an artist. And here also public performance can also mean that, like, let's say these days people are like more into OTT platforms like Netflix and Amazon and Hotstar. So even if one of your music gets assigned to any of these OTT platforms on any movies or something like that, so you can gain a monetary benefit out of it also. So let me give you an example of a very famous show which is consumed like maximum in this country, called Indian Idol. So what goes behind this show? So like we've seen, they like, let's say 20, they sing 20 to 30 songs on these on this show, and like it is very difficult for the producers of the show to like pick and then pick license for each and every song. So this is where the blanket license comes in place. So what here the network, which is Sony, so what the producers of the show is, when they start planning for the new season of the show, their first goal is to get the blanket license from IPRS. And basically, these blanket license will then give monetary benefit to all the registered artists under IPRS. And generally, before starting a show, there is something called as cue sheet. Cue sheet is very similar to the set list which is being used by the artist in live performance. Cue sheet is, let's say you have a 1 hour long show. So you just have to mention, okay, at 5 minutes of this show, I have used this song. At 10 minutes of this show, I have used XYZ song. And so basically, you just give a breakdown of what all songs are being used in what episode. And this cue sheet belongs to each and every episode. And this is not for the whole show. So, which is where the artist will get that monetary benefit through IPRS. And yeah, this is how generally IPRS distributes in this scenario. And I guess I'll hand over to Rahul, where he'll explain you more on how things are working.
Thanks, Sandesh. So let's now move to talk about the second thing which I said. We have covered a little bit about the law of the land and how it's progressing right now. And let's now talk about prevailing practices. Right. So until very recently, like say maybe a decade or two ago at most, I would say, the music industry in India entirely has evolved out as as an offshoot of films. Like the film would come first, then they would get a music director to make songs around it, and that would be sold as a soundtrack. And that's what the Indian audience has been consuming and still does for the most part. But recently, like I said, in the past decade or two, maybe there has been a surge in music being created independently by artists, where because everybody has access now to a laptop, it's increasing even more. Like anyone can make music with Logic or GarageBand or whatever it is. But it's been happening for the past couple of decades, I would say, since album music or whatever started coming. And coupled with the content boom that's there right now due to the rise of OTT. Like there are multiple OTT platforms and each one has to, make shows continuously on a yearly basis, at least 4 to 5 shows they need to churn out. And these are multiple episodes, and plus there are films which are separate and all of that. So considering now these two things are booming, there is a new format in which things can start working and are now. That's why this is still, I would say, prevailing practice now, is that music is both licensed and it's also commissioned. Let's take the most mainstream web show as an example, I would say, which is The Family Man. Right now, it's probably the most relevant example to this, where music has both been licensed by independent artists, as well as like a song has been composed and background score has been composed and all of that. So there is a balance between the two. I'll give you an example of this particular song here. So the background score is composed entirely by Ketan Sodha, who has done an excellent job. It really complements the tension and the light feeling also at the same time in this show. But a number of songs by independent artists have also made their way into the show, and they've lent a lot of creative value and economic value as well. So for this first example, I'll talk about this song called Hukus Bukus, which is a Kashmiri song by an artist called Abha Anjura. This was originally released in 2017 as a single. And what's really cool about this is she's a native of Kashmir and her music has that authenticity. But at the same time, because she's an independent artist in today's day, her sound is very contemporary, which is why it works really well in the show in this particular scene where Manoj Bajpayee has traveled to Kashmir. And this basically works as with the establishment shot where they're showing scenes of Kashmir and this is the song that plays. I'm hoping you guys can hear the music.
No, I don't.
Okay. Then I think there's an issue with my Zoom. But anyway, guys, this is available on YouTube, but the show is also available on Amazon Prime. If you haven't seen it, then go watch it. It's really good. Another example from the same show, there are multiple songs, by the way, is this song called Beta Sweater Pehno. It's by a band called Swaratma. It appears in a very like comic scene where this lead character of Manoj Bajpayee is stuck in a corporate job, which obviously he's not happy with. But what's interesting is this same comic effect can be achieved with background score also, right? Like there is no that's been done before multiple times and it's worked also. But when you have a song like this, I don't know if you've heard the song or seen this particular scene, but you should check it out. It really lends a lot of character to both the protagonist and the scene itself and everything that is happening, because the song, like I said, it was released by Swaratma, I think in 2016 or 17 only. I might be wrong, but it talks about this how everyone is kind of meant to do what they're told, and that's always the scene, either with parents or society or even your own subconscious, whatever it may be, but you're always doing what you're told. And it's done in a very comic, ironic, satirical way, so which is why it works really well with this scene. In fact, this video, which is the YouTube video, has like a compilation and all of that, which Amazon released, so you can guess that it did really well for Swaratma as well. I would really recommend you check out this song also and this video. I won't play it because of the issue, but yeah, anyway. So there are many other songs, like I said, which have been licensed either for a particular scene or for closing credits in this show. And let's talk about why they did this. What are the benefits? So the creators of the show, in this case, was D2R Films. It's a production house. It was great for multiple reasons. Firstly, a lot of time is saved in the process, as all songs don't have to be composed from scratch, that too by one person. Like I said, Ketan Sodha was probably busy working on the score, which was excellent. And these little things like of value were added later on by licensing particular songs. And secondly, it can be more economical in a lot of cases, like especially when you're licensing from an independent artist, because it works out as passive income for the artist, right? They're not sitting and making new music, and it's basically their existing music which has gotten some more revenue. It's passive income for them, which is why it can be more economical. Unless you're going with like a big signed artist who's with a label like Universal or Sony or something like that, then definitely that can work out probably more expensive. But even they like look at your budget and the scope of your use, and then they will give you whatever quote. And most importantly, I would guess, is that it adds this authenticity and a fresh sound. It it creates some value in the sense that you will now remember this song attached to that scene. And that's how also Indian audience has been used to consuming music, if you think about it. Like I said, because music has come from film, we are very used to looking at music when it's attached with visual media. So yeah, this is, I think, these three benefits speak volumes about why music should and can be licensed in these things. So what really happened in this case, let's talk about the legalities of it. Is the people on the team of D2R Films, they found or they knew songs that they wanted to use, and they obtained a license for each track. This is called a sync license. I'll just define it in a little bit. But what broadly has happened is they have obtained one license for each of these tracks by paying the artist a particular fee. Now, each artist, if they have registered themselves and their songs with IPRS, which is the Copyright Society for Composers and Authors, they should derive royalties from the broadcast of The Family Man on Amazon Prime. So just to be clear, they got the fee from D2R Films, but they will get these royalties from Amazon Prime via IPRS. So it's like double income for the artist, which is great. So this license basically that D2R has obtained from each artist is called a sync license. It's short for synchronization license. And it's basically a license for use of music in movies, television shows, advertisements, video games, etc. It could be basically in synchronization with anything. It could even be a podcast for that matter, where you are wanting to play some music. Basically, anywhere where your music has to play in sync with anything else, then you need a sync license for it. So this example of Family Man and D2R, where songs have been licensed, is still the most, you could say, standard form of sync. But there is another side that has developed. Yeah, there are different types of sync deals based on scope of use. And the biggest, like the most polar opposite, you could say, is this thing called micro sync, which I'm sure if there are filmmakers in the audience, then they would know that there are multiple websites which give you access to like stock music or called production music also, where you can basically for either a subscription or a very small fee, you can license music to use either in your like vlogs or short films or stuff like that. Now, those are that cheap for two reasons, I would say. One is because they are non-exclusive licenses. That means essentially that that song or that piece of music can be used any number of times by any number of people. If you license it, that doesn't mean that you are the only person that can use and license it now. So there's non-exclusivity. And also the second thing is the scope of use is very small. Think about like The Family Man is being aired on Amazon Prime and is reaching millions of people, which is why it's probably expensive to license over there. Whereas for user generated content where people are putting out stuff on YouTube, you might have 1,000 subscribers or more, you might have some views, but still it's on YouTube, and you're not going to make the same amount of money that someone who's putting it out on Netflix is going to make, which is why it's cheaper to use. So yeah, this is essentially called microsync, where there are smaller transactions of smaller fees, but on a bigger, much larger scale. So in this music industry context, we have, very broadly touched on the law of the land and some prevailing practices. So I'd like Sandesh to come back and talk about the possibilities for the future.
Hey, thank you, Rahul. So yeah, as we know, the biggest event currently happening in this human evolution, so which is the pandemic, which is happening, and a lot of opportunities have gone for toss, but we have been forced to always, sustain in this world and create something new so that, we just overcome those things. And this is, I think, a transition period to another phase. And it can be also observed that the tech is at the center of innovation. So because, which is why I think the online media consumption is at its peak, and we can easily watch any show or any movie on our fingertips. And we believe that the music industry and the media industry is also growing. And it's important to know that collaboration is much better thing than competition. So yeah, let's go back a few decades ago, where music was consumed in an analog format, being vinyls, tapes, cassettes, which is then followed by a digital format, which is CDs or iPods or torrents, and even now streaming sites. And these streaming sites are evolving and now making media more accessible. But the payout rates are always being questioned and debated. So let me give you an example where you, let's go back 5 years ago or 5 to 6 years ago, where you went to a theater and watched movies for around, let's say, 300 rupees, 400 rupees. So for that 400 rupees, you could watch only one movie. But now, with that same 400 rupees Netflix subscription, you can watch endless movies from their catalog. So now you can see that how the content monetary value is depreciating daily. So for that to sustain, we need to ensure that there is something new avenues from where we can, like, gain some money. And to create this change, you have to be a part of it and have the ability to question these copyright society. And and you can only question these societies when you are a part of it. And I think IPRS currently is not at its best position, but as we have spoken to a lot of artists who are like members of IPRS for 5 years, 10 years, they I get a very positive feedback from them that, like, yeah, when we joined, IPRS was not good at that time, but yeah, IPRS has improved. In 2021, let's say IPRS has improved a lot. So, like, yeah, change is happening. And this at this pandemic time, IPRS is also running a campaign where, like, you can be you get a free membership from them, which is currently in progress. So yeah, accessibility and the regulation can give you a sustainable revenue if you work correctly. And there is another thing which is at its peak when we say this monetary benefit for the artist, which is NFT, which has created a spark in the industry. Now it is still at its growing stage, but the monetary values can be huge. It it looks very attractive, like a song is being, like, recently a Tamil artist who sold his phone recording of an audio for, I think, few crores of rupees. So yeah, but this NFT also, like, provides a personal relationship with artists and fans directly. So there is also, like, this is at still at a growing stage. So, like, I don't want to comment anything on this as of now, but yeah, this we can at least observe how the NFT module is growing, and maybe catch up. It might catch up few years later also. And also we've seen live concerts happening, which is you can you can watch people from all over the world through virtual concerts. And maybe the future can be AR and VR, the augmented reality and the virtual reality. So yeah, things are happening, but we also have to wait and watch. And I think the brand collaboration, which is also happening. So there are these virtual artists also, which is like a gaming industry from Japan has created a virtual figure which can and they've recorded music on top of that. So like they are having concerts where you cannot see real people, but you can see a virtual figure dancing and singing those songs, and people are watching that. So yeah, I think this can create multiple avenues for your creative and monetary benefit, and it should be explored. And yeah, to conclude everything now, so this one question, industry kaise chalegi? So yeah, I think the correct answer is there is no defined law as of how the industry will work and industry kaise chalegi. But हमको अगर industry चलाना है, and there is everything is negotiable. And there are not many industries, like there are many industries. And if you say like film, so film is a collaborative effort where the director, the producer, and everybody is coming together to make this one beautiful content which you can watch. So I think our main motive is to collaborate and not compete with each other, because I think, and not even in music industry, even in general day-to-day life, if you just compete with everybody, and you might have some ego issues or something like that. But yeah, if you collaborate and work together, I think the industry might go well. And Rahul, would you like to add something on this?
More or less like the same thing. Yeah, Sandesh is absolutely right. When firstly, like there are too many industries that are intertwined. It's not one. So you cannot say, some particular thing about the music industry which is independent from everything else. Same as you can't say about film or OTT or anything. These are all industries that coexist. And I feel like it is probably like impossible to pin down that this is the way to work or this is how things are going to work also in the future. Considering, like I said, things are changing. There are so many possibilities. The law is also changing and people are figuring out ways to work. So like, yeah, to sum it up, there are many industries, not one. And secondly, the best way you could think to go about it is to collaborate rather than compete. Like Sandesh said, exactly, because the only way we're going to find what are the best practices is if firstly we just go out and talk to people, who are working either in the same field or at least adjacent or what do you call it, complementing fields, who will have definitely some insight to provide. And you might think that you know a lot about your own industry, but then there are things that you will come to know only when you talk to more people. So definitely I would say that our mantra is to collaborate rather than compete, and that's the best way we could say the industry will probably grow. So yeah, guys, any questions from your end, please feel free to share.
Yeah, Rahul, there are a couple of fresh questions here. So,
Yeah.
Firstly, let me start. If you have any questions, you can put it down in the chat, and I'll bring them forth to Rahul and Sandesh. To start with, I think for the first question, the Pratap, to explain what do you mean by unauthorized use of whatever the music content is.
Okay, so unauthorized use is basically if you use something without permission. Now, say if you are having like a theater house or something and you want to play a film, then you need to get permission of the producer of the film, right? Whoever it is, like the production house or whoever owns that film. Same for music. If you have like a platform of your own where you're putting out music, like say SoundCloud or Spotify or whatever it is, and you want to use someone's music on your platform, you want to put it out there, you need to take permission from the person who owns your music. If you don't take permission, that is counted as unauthorized use. So it's fairly straightforward, man. Yeah, you need to take permission. That's it. If you don't have permission, you are basically using it in an unauthorized manner. Apart from like things which are in the public domain, as they say, which copyright has expired. Basically, in our country, copyright lasts for I think 60 years after a person's death. So if I have made a song and say I die in the next whatever 5 years, then 65 years from now is when that song will go into public domain. There you can use that song without asking anyone, without anyone's permission. But otherwise, you need to basically take some sort of permission. It will mostly be in the form of a license for using any kind of content.
Okay. The next up is Pratap has asked, like, where can you collect the royalties from if you're an author? Like, where do you collect the royalties from?
You can collect your royalties from IPRS. If you're talking about as an author of a book or a literary work, then there is also, you should look into like SRAI, which is Screenwriters Association, Screenwriters Rights Association of India. And it depends on what you're talking about as an author. If you're an author of lyrics, then definitely IPRS is where you can collect royalties for your works from.
Okay, next up is from YouTube. Mad Scientist has asked one question saying, how exactly do remakes work for, or remixes work? I guess he's talking. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So how remixes work is basically what you do is, let's say if you want to remix an old Bollywood song, you can just directly look upon what record label the song is associated with. Let's say in India there are these famous record labels, T Series or Venus or Saregama, or maybe some Western common record labels like Universal Music, Warner Music, Sony. So you can just go through them and you can directly shoot them a mail saying that, yeah, I want to remix this song. And I guess you might have to credit them, because when you generate royalties from these remixes, they will also get some monetary benefit because the main author of that song is still them. So yeah, I guess permission needs to be taken for that, for any remix from the respective record labels.
The next one is about NFTs. So Pratap has asked, can you explain NFTs?
So NFT is basically a non-fungible token. I can explain like the concept behind it. Sorry, I just saw the next question also, which is like how NFT works for music. I'll try and answer both. Although I don't have enough knowledge about this, I will be clear and say that. But NFT is basically a non-fungible token, which is powered by this blockchain technology. And what that means is when someone is buying or selling an NFT, there is a proper record or a transaction that occurs, and a record of that transaction is available. And that cannot be basically fungified or whatever. It cannot be altered in any way, because it is already in this technological domain where it's a set record. So if I have made something, this record states that I am the owner of it. And once I sell it, it's then transferred to this person. It's kind of like if you think about buying like old paintings from museums, which are very famous. The whole point is that it's an original painting and you will have rights over it, right? Once you buy it, then this is your painting or whatever it is. The same concept applies in a digital domain using NFTs. So it's powered by cryptocurrency also. So that's kind of it. But when it comes to music, again, it's a very buying and selling type transaction, right? So if, like Sandesh pointed out this example of a Tamil poet or a musician who basically sold a phone recording of this song. So it's not the song itself that he's selling, right? It's this particular phone recording that he's selling. And it's kind of like an auction that he's held for this. So all of his fans all over the world or whatever, I think someone from Sri Lanka or somewhere in the southeast uh, bought this particular item. But yeah, it's an auction that is held and everybody bids on it. And there are multiple ways also of going about it, depending on which NFT marketplace you're looking at. But there is actually, I feel like what would be better is there is a document which is available on the industry, on the internet, which talks about how exactly NFT is being used in this music industry globally in a very detailed and comprehensive format. I will try to share a link in this chat window itself in a bit. But yeah, right now it's very still, ambiguous as to how people can monetize that much from it, because also considering the fact that you're not going to make cash, you're going to make cryptocurrency, which is there's not enough regulation for it. So it's not like going to be the same thing that you just cash out and it shows up in rupees. That's not going to be the case yet. So just keep that in mind also. I'm sorry, I know this is not the most comprehensive explanation, but yeah.
So basically, it's like basically you owning like maybe one of the original tapes that the Beatles recorded on.
Exactly.
Rather than song on it. Basically.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, another question was by Alokik. He asked, what exactly should we keep in mind when approaching a label for the first time? The second thing to that is the royalties are charged between artist and the label, but what percentage is ideal?
So see, firstly, I would say keep in mind that everything is negotiable, right? Like there is no set percentage that is set by law that, if an artist and label work together, they have to work in 50-50 or 90-10 or anything like that. You have to kind of understand what services this label is going to offer for you. Firstly, like most people will tell you if you talk to them that the ideal approach is that the label should approach you. It should not go the other way around. But there are people who sure still go and approach labels and might get a deal as well. But you have to know that if you are approaching a label, firstly, also your leverage is kind of compromised to an extent, right? Unless you know that you have whatever quality fan base or something, because a label is not going to take just an artist that sounds good and push them. That's not going to happen. They are going to take an artist on board who has some kind of fan base already and has some sort of a proven track record, because they are also working based on data. And with regards to like what kind of deal or what kind of royalties sharing happens, generally what happens is the label will pay you. If you are the artist, they will pay you in advance. This is a recoupable advance, which means that say they have given you 2 lakhs or 20 lakhs for that matter, whatever it is. This means that in that 20 lakhs, you have to produce an album or a song, whatever it is. There will be a music video made. There will be, whatever else, promotional costs, expenses, everything is going to come from that. After which they are going to recoup this money first from your share of royalties. So say if there is a 50-50 agreement, hypothetically, which generally is never the case, but what happens is from your share, first they will recover the advance that they paid you. They will recover that, and after that you will start seeing whatever the share of royalties are. So also when it comes to what you should keep in mind is, I would say, like first and most importantly is the term of the contract. By term, I mean like the time period. So there should be, in most cases, you should look out for the word perpetuity, I would say, because that entails like an international example would be maybe like Kanye West and his album that he was fighting for. And I think Taylor Swift also had some kind of a similar issue that, they basically sold off their recordings and their albums to the label in perpetuity. But if you have a term deal which states that you will basically share rights and royalties for 10 years, 20 years, whatever it may be, 5 years also for that matter, then that means that after 5 years, either you can revisit the contract or everything comes back to you. So I would suggest best is to like approach a lawyer firstly, understand if you get a contract, like sure, you can approach a label, keeping in mind also the kind of label it is and the kind of music you are making. Like if you are making folk music, then going to Azadi Records does make sense. But if you are a rapper who is probably writing about like socio-political issues and stuff like that, then Azadi is the label to go to in that scenario. In that format, like there is a label for each kind of music in this country, you could say. So do some research, approach a label, see what they say, just talk to them. You don't have to, straight away ask for a deal or something. You can maybe just have a chat and see what can be done. Take things slow. And if you get some kind of proposal or a contract, definitely get legal advice from a lawyer.
Great. So I think before we kind of wrap up, could you, Rahul, share more details about Heard Music, and maybe share the link to your site and stuff to that for the students?
Absolutely, yeah. So Heard Music is a music publisher and a music supervision company. And what that means is as a music supervisor, we go to filmmakers and production houses and tell them that we will find the music for your film, whatever it may be, if it's a short film or a web series or an ad film or anything for that matter. We basically source the music, be it composed music, then we'll get the composer on board. If it's licensed music, then we will look for the right kind of music and license it and handle the negotiations and the paperwork. But all of this is done according to the creative need of the filmmaker and also as per the budget. And believe me when I say that there is music for every kind of budget, whatever it is, because when you open up doors to licensing, then there are way more possibilities that can shape up, and there's many things that you can do. So that's what we do as a music supervisor. As a music publisher, we basically represent compositions by artists. So this is again a little bit of copyright information, you could say, but a copyright of a song is generally divided, not generally, but always divided into the composition and the sound recording, or the master also it's called. So the sound recording is that particular master file, whatever it is, mixed and mastered, that final file that goes up on platforms that everyone can listen to. The composition is just the essence of the song, the melody and the lyrics and all of that, which is what IPRS hands out royalties for. When I said composers and authors, that's who IPRS handles royalties for. And we as a publisher manage compositions for artists. We will go and register the work with IPRS, collect royalties, and we'll also try and get opportunities for this artist to get placed in movies or films or web shows and stuff like that.
Great, Rahul, there are a few more questions. I mean, there are 3 more questions that have come in.
Sure.
So first thing is there is a section on YouTube known as licensed to YouTube by XYZ multiple labels. So Akhilesh wants to know, what does that mean?
Yeah. So YouTube has a thing called a content ID system, which exists to like basically not prevent, but kind of monetize from people using music that doesn't belong to them. So say if I'm a vlogger and I have put out a vlog of me, whatever, hiking through the mountains, and there is some music that plays when I've edited my video, I have put some kind of music in it. Then automatically I will get like a content ID claim, which suggests that, this music that's in your video belongs to this person. So yeah, licensed to YouTube by multiple labels, like you say, like Warner or EMI or BMI, and multiple people. Basically, these are all the people that hold rights in this particular song. So the reason there are multiple is because in the West mainly, how it works is one song can have multiple writers or composers. You can take like a Lady Gaga song or something like that for an example, where sure, there'll be one person performing it, but the people who have composed it or written the lyrics will be a team of people, and each person might have a different publisher representing them, which is why each person needs to basically make money from this. So what they do is on YouTube, they submit their music essentially, and all of this information as to who owns how much share of rights to YouTube as an asset into this content ID system. So automatically when YouTube detects this song playing somewhere, they will put up these people in this bar and say that, okay, these are the people who will start making money from your video. And you will notice that the moment this happens, your video will start running ads. Basically, that's where the money is coming from for these people. But yeah, that's just to facilitate that if you're using music, then the people who own the music should be compensated for it. That's it. It's not a copyright strike or anything, but it's just that whoever owns the music should get money from it. That's all.
That's good. Another question so Akhilesh is asking whether one song can be released under multiple labels.
Not exactly. No, I would say no, because there can be multiple labels throughout the life of a song, you could say, but you will release a song with one label. Say if I'm going to Universal and I'm saying that, hey, I've written this song, can you release it? And Universal is like, okay, sure. And they, whatever, help me with promotions and whatever marketing, this, that, we have our deal. But say down the line, EMI or Sony, for that matter, feels like, hey, I'm going to use this song better and I'm going to give them a better deal. They will go to Universal and buy the rights for it for another period of time and compensate whoever is involved, be it just the label or the label and the artist, who is me in this case. So throughout the life of the song, like ownership can transfer, but you can release only through one label at a time.
Yeah, okay. Another question is so Pratap wants to know, how do streaming platforms make the money, and how is that money paid to artists, whether it's per 1,000 streams, or is there like a limit for that, or like a bar for that rather?
Right. So firstly, I would like to suggest, or just everyone also pay attention to the fact that there is no per stream rate. You might see the moment you Google, Spotify pay rate or something, they will give you Spotify pays 0.000 whatever per stream. Now that per stream is something that is calculated later. They are not paying per stream. How it works is, say, you have to again remember, like I said, there are two sides to a copyright of a song. There is the composition and there is the sound recording, right? So in most cases, a song, the master recording will be owned by a record label. Let's take Universal in this case. So Universal goes to Spotify and says that I will give you all of the songs that are in my catalog throughout, and you pay me a chunk of your income, basically, like say 10% of all the money that you make in a year, something like that. But that rate tends to be more or less constant among labels. It's not going to be like Universal will get 10% and Sony will get 25%. It won't be that, won't be the case. It'll be more or less the same. And same goes for the composition as well. Like I said, IPRS in our country handles royalty distribution for compositions and composers and authors. And like Sandesh also pointed out, Spotify is public performance. So Spotify has to take a license from IPRS as well, and all of these societies that exist across the globe. So similar situation, it will be like a chunk of their income that they will have to promise to IPRS or whoever society for the amount of music that IPRS is giving them. So speaking from an independent artist perspective, like say I have made music and I have distributed it with someone like OK Listen or CD Baby, then what I get, you will get some kind of money from them. It won't be like per 1,000 plays or after 1,000 plays only or something like that. But they might have, based on the distributor, they might have a minimum payout value. Like only once you accrue like maybe $1,000 of income, after that we'll pay out to you. But that is the distributor. That is not Spotify laying down the rule or anyone. So whatever you get from the distributor is the income from the sound recording, the master side of it. For the composition side, you have to go to IPRS and register your song and yourself as a member and give the Spotify link, the YouTube link, Amazon Music link, whatever it is. All of it you have to submit, and you will see money coming in from the composition side as well from Spotify and all of these platforms.
So yes, that can be basically two sources of income.
Yeah.
So even if you miss out on the Spotify income, you can still get something from IPRS coming in.
Yeah, exactly. Because like I said, Spotify is not, again, they're not doing a per song payout or something. They have a blanket license with Spotify. IPRS and Spotify have a blanket license, and blanket license are how they operate overall. They won't have a separate deal with any particular artist or particular album or something like that.
Right. So the next question here is last couple of questions here is like, can someone have a deal with Heard Music for web series if their music is already released? Is what Alokik is asking.
Yeah, I mean, in the sense, see, licensed music essentially means that music which has been released, right? If you have released a song, like I pointed out, the Swaratma or Abha Anjura song, for example, they were both released songs which were licensed into this web series. But the point is, Heard cannot guarantee that. You see, like, we can represent you or your song and try and get it onto this like project, film, or web series, whatever it may be. But in the end, it's up to the web series creator to see if this song is the right fit for them. Like, it's not up to us at the end of the day. We can only pitch, but yeah, it's up to them.
Great.
Also, I think
yeah.
Just I want to add a few points on this. Also, I think the theme of the song and the genre of the song also matters. If, let's say, if we are getting a romantic themed web series inquiries, let's say we've got 2 or 3 inquiries for these romantic themed web series, and if your music is, let's say, rock or some metal music, it won't fit into that. So we cannot, like, purposely fit something which is not suiting to the material. So yeah, patience is only the game, I guess. Like, even when Swaratma or Abha Anjura is also, like, when they released their song in 2017, they didn't have a motive that we'll pitch our songs to some film or somewhere else, and it will just happen accidentally. And, like, it which is where Rahul also mentioned that this is still, the copyright still belongs to you, even, like, 60 years after your death. So this is an asset which you are creating, and you just have to believe in your music and just keep making it, so that, one day or the other, yes, of course, pitching has to happen, but pitching as in, you can just recommend these songs. Hey sir, this is okay, this is my song, and you can just go through it, and if it fits wherever, like, it is suitable, then you can obviously use the song. So yeah, I think that can be the approach, where you're not being like, where you're not expecting that, okay, I've given you a song today, and let's say 6 months down the line, you're not converting this whole thing for me, and it is not working for me. So yeah, it might happen in 6 months, it might happen few years. So patience is the only game.
Yeah, you have to wait for that right person to pick that song for your for their purposes, basically.
Correct.
So the last question here is, is basically Pradyumna has seen multiple label logos on a poster. So he wants to know, what does that mean on a release poster when you have multiple labels?
Okay, if this is on one song, then maybe, like, it's possible that there is some kind of collaboration happening between labels, because they represent those particular artists who are involved in this song. This tends to happen in the West a lot. Maybe in India, I would say it doesn't that much, because, like, one label generally all out goes and owns the rights to whatever it is. But if there's a collaboration between, like, labels who are representing different artists, then sure, there can be some kind of deal where, one label will say, I'll put X amount of rupees, the other one will say, I'll put this much, and we'll share in this ratio. So it's kind of like any business, if you think about it. It's not, limited to just, there is no law saying that if there is one label, then they must do it. But it's a collaboration, probably, in your case that you're stating.
Great. I think this is it from the question side of things. Rahul and Sandesh, thanks a lot for sharing this information. I think it is something that's not very easily available, as compared to how to make music and how to do stuff like that. I would kind of really recommend people to go and check out their site, and I think there's a form on your site where people can fill in and
Yeah. See, definitely, I would just put it out there again that we are like Sandesh said, sure, we're a business and want to make revenue and all of that, but our still primary goal is to create awareness about these things. So please feel free to reach out to us with any more questions or anything that you just want to talk about, get more clarity on. We will be very happy to talk to you even one-on-one. And yes, we are, like Johnston said, collecting some data. If anyone is like a musician on like some kind of a professional capacity, then just visit our Instagram page and go to the link in our bio. You will see a form where we're collecting data about session musicians and vocalists. And this is basically like we're building a community where people can access and collaborate with more people in their vicinity, or even you don't even have to be in the vicinity, considering how things are going, like everything is remote. So we're building a community where people can collaborate better and understand how rights and copyright and revenue generation works. So yeah, please feel free to get in touch. Even if you're a filmmaker, then you have any whatever film projects that you need music for, feel free to get in touch. We are open to licensing, like I said, regardless of budget for that matter. Like there are small independent artists, there are small filmmakers. Our job is basically connecting people. That's it.
Great. Rahul, there's one last question from Akhilesh. He wants to know if an artist has cancelled a deal with the record label, then, and signs a new one, how does it affect the royalties and commercials? If you don't mind answering that.
This will be entirely based on whatever is stated in their contract. So generally, this is put down in the contract. Like if firstly cancellation, also there is some kind of clause with regards to how it can happen. If there is one party who wants to cancel, generally there is at least a term period where they have to, continue. And there might be a clause stating that even if you cancel the deal, the label might, continue to earn royalties from your songs for X amount of time, after which it will come back to you. So it entirely depends on what's in the contract between the label and the artist.
Great. So thanks a lot for this information. And I think one thing I'd like to share about contracts, I think you should not get scared about contracts. Right? If you sign a contract, there's always an exit clause to it. So
I think also contracts are very important because it will give you in and out information on each and everything. Let's say how the song is being placed, how the royalties are being split. What if you cancel? There are few instances where the artist has a higher hand in this, and he is told that if I cancel, I'll only pay $1 to the record label.
Okay.
For the record label, it will sound very stupid, but the artist is on the higher ground in this scenario because he has nothing to lose. So yeah, I think contract, even if you get a contract, get a music lawyer to be specific, like associated with this contract and guide you and go through each and every point. And each and every point is negotiable, and there might be any loopholes or something like that. So just go through the contract, take your own time, and make sure you've gone through each and every point and you're not losing out on anything. Maybe it will be a 50-50 thing where you're not gaining much, but you're not losing much. But don't go on the side where you're losing a lot of things and gaining just a few.
Right. So I think getting a full, good knowledge of what you're signing up for is important.
Yeah, which is why I think music lawyers are very important. So even if you are offered with any contract, just contact few music lawyers. There are a few in India who are famous, like Priyanka Khimani. She is doing a lot of things for all these big artists in Bollywood. And then there is one more lawyer called Manojna Yeluri from Bangalore, and a lot of upcoming lawyers, as per se. And we also have a lawyer with us who is working. So yeah, feel free to reach us out anytime if you get a contract. So yeah, we can also help you out with giving you information on what is for you and what is not for you.
It sounds good. Anyway,
Correct.
thanks a lot, guys. I think it's been a great session. I can say this on behalf of everyone here. And,
Thank you.
we hope to stay in touch and, do more music or work together
Absolutely.
sometime
Thanks.
soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Johnston, for having us. Thanks, everyone, for
Thank
coming.
you.
And yeah, feel free to reach out for any case. I would definitely stress the fact that, guys, paperwork is important. Even if you're working for free or whatever it is, just put it on paper, have everything clear, and it'll help you realize what all you're giving to someone and getting in return, even if it's whatever exposure, whatever you want to call it, but put it down on paper, I would suggest. So yeah, get in touch if anything, if we can help in any way.
Great. Thanks a lot, guys. And we'll see each other soon, maybe.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Done.
All right.
See you
See you
soon.
guys.
Have
Thanks
a
a lot.
great day.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Yeah.